Episode 1, August the 4th, 1914. Asquith speaks the words of fate by the Countess of Oxford and Asquith. Read by Mary Grunwald. Downing Street was full of anxious and excited people as we motored to the House of Commons the next day, August the 4th, 1914. Some stared, some cheered, and some lifted their hats in silence. I sat breathless, with my face glued to the grille of the gallery, when my husband rose to announce that an ultimatum had been sent to Germany. He said, "In conformity with the statement of policy made here by my right honourable friend the Foreign Secretary yesterday, a telegram was early this morning sent to our ambassador in Berlin. It was to this effect. The King of the Belgians has made an appeal to His Majesty the King for diplomatic intervention on behalf of Belgium. His Majesty's government are also informed that the German government have delivered to the Belgian government a note proposing friendly neutrality, entailing free passage through Belgian territory and promising to maintain the independence and integrity of the kingdom and its possessions at the conclusion of peace, threatening, in case of refusal, to treat Belgium as an enemy. We also understand that Belgium has categorically refused this as a flagrant violation of the law of nations. His Majesty's government are bound to protest against this violation of a treaty to which Germany is a party in common with themselves, and must request an assurance that the demand made upon Belgium may not be proceeded with, and that her neutrality will be respected by Germany. You should ask for an immediate reply." We received this morning from our minister at Brussels the following telegram. German minister has this morning addressed note to the Belgian Minister for Foreign Affairs, stating that as Belgian government have declined the well-intended proposals submitted to them by the imperial government, the latter will, deeply to their regret, be compelled to carry out, if necessary by force of arms, the measures considered indispensable in view of the French menaces. Simultaneously, almost immediately afterwards, we received from the Belgian legation here in London the following telegram. General Staff announces that territory has been violated at Gemmenich, near Aix-la-Chapelle. Subsequent information tends to show that the German force has penetrated still further into Belgic territory. We also received this morning from the German ambassador here the telegram sent to him by the German Foreign Secretary and communicated by the ambassador to us. It is in these terms. Please dispel any mistrust that may subsist on the part of the British government with regard to our intentions by repeating most positively formal assurance that, even in the case of armed conflict with Belgium, Germany will under no pretence whatever annex Belgian territory. Sincerity of this declaration is borne out by the fact that we solemnly pledged our word to Holland strictly to respect her neutrality. It is obvious that we could not profitably annex Belgian territory without making, at the same time, territorial acquisitions at expense of Holland. Please impress upon Sir E. Grey that German army could not be exposed to French attack across Belgium, which was planned according to absolutely unimpeachable information. Germany had consequently to disregard Belgic neutrality, it being for her a question of life or death to prevent French advance. Henry paused after this, and then said in a slow, loud voice, "I have to add on behalf of His Majesty's government. We cannot regard this as in any sense a satisfactory communication. We have, in reply to it, repeated the request we made last week to the German government that they should give us the same assurance in regard to Belgian neutrality as was given to us and to Belgium by France last week. We have asked that a reply to that request and a satisfactory answer to the telegram of this morning, which I have already read to the House, should be given before midnight. I looked at the House, which was packed from gallery to floor while my husband was speaking, and through misty eyes the heads of the listening members appeared to me as if bowed in prayer. A satisfactory answer before midnight. These fateful and terrible words were greeted by wave upon wave of cheering, which continued and increased as Henry rose and walked slowly down the floor of the House. Few understood why he went down to the bar, and when he turned and faced the Speaker, excitement knew no bounds. I quote now from Hansard. The Prime Minister at the bar acquainted the House that he had a message from His Majesty, signed by His Majesty's own hand, and he presented the same to the House, and it was read by Mr. Speaker, all the members of the House being uncovered, and it is as followeth. George R.I. The present state of public affairs in Europe, constituting, in the opinion of His Majesty, a case of great emergency within the meaning of the Acts of Parliament in that behalf, His Majesty deems it proper to provide additional means for the military service, and therefore, in pursuance of these acts, His Majesty has thought it right to communicate to the House of Commons that His Majesty is, by proclamation, about to order that the Army Reserve shall be called out on permanent service, that soldiers who would otherwise be entitled, in pursuance of the terms of their enlistment, to be transferred to the Reserve shall continue in Army service for such period, not exceeding the period for which they might be required to serve if they were transferred to the Reserve, and called out for permanent service as to His Majesty may seem expedient, and that such directions as may seem necessary may be given for embodying the territorial force, and for making such special arrangements as may be proper with regard to units or individuals whose services may be required in other than a military capacity. When the Speaker had finished reading the King's message, all the members poured out of the House, and I went down to the Prime Minister's room. Henry looked grave, and gave me John Morley's letter of resignation, saying, "I shall miss him very much. He is one of the most distinguished men living." For some time we did not speak. I left the window and stood behind his chair. "So is it all up?" I said. He answered without looking me, "Yes, it's all up." I sat down beside him with a feeling of numbness in my limbs, and absently watched through the half-open door the backs of moving men. Henry sat at his writing-table, leaning back with a pen in his hand. What was he thinking of? His sons? My son was too young to fight. Would they all have to fight? I got up and leant my head against his. We could not speak for tears. When I arrived in Downing Street, I went to bed. How could it have happened? What were we all like 5 days ago? We were talking about Ireland and civil war. Civil war. People were angry, but not serious. And now the sound of real war waved like wireless around our heads, and the whole world was listening. I looked at the children asleep after dinner, before joining Henry in the cabinet room. Lord Crewe and Sir Edward Grey were already there, and we sat smoking cigarettes in silence. Some went out, others came in. Nothing was said. The clock on the mantelpiece hammered out the hour, and when the last beat of midnight struck, it was as silent as dawn. We were at war. I left to go to bed, and as I was pausing at the foot of the staircase, I saw Winston Churchill, with a happy face, striding toward the double doors of the cabinet room.
Goodbye, goodbye, when the tea may be dear from your eye, though it's hard to part, I know, I'll be till to death, I know, but cry, but sigh, there's a silver lining in the sky, but swallowed finch in the old chin-chin, now toodle-oo, goodbye. Brother Bertie went away to do his bit the other day, with a smile on his lips and his lieutenant lips upon his shoulder, bright and gay. As the train moved out, he said, "Remember me to all the birds," though he wagged his paw and went away to war, shouting out these pathetic